Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a really revolutionary idea in cybersecurity. It's called Software-Defined Perimeter, or SDP for short. And let me tell you, it completely flips the script on how we protect our most valuable digital stuff. All right, let's get right into it.
So I want you to just think about this for a second. What if the best way to protect your data wasn't about building bigger, stronger walls, but about making the entire fortress completely invisible to the enemy? That is the incredibly powerful, almost sci-fi promise of what we're talking about today.
Okay, so to really get why SDP is such a game changer, we've got to look back at how we used to do things. For decades, our whole approach to cybersecurity was basically like a medieval castle, Big, strong outer walls, one main gate, and a deep moat to keep all the bad guys out.
And look, that castle model, it worked perfectly fine back when all our treasure, our servers, our data, was all locked up in one physical building. But today's world, it doesn't look anything like that. Our people are working from everywhere, our data lives in the cloud, and we're connecting with all kinds of mobile phones and smart devices. The whole map has changed.
And that is the core problem we're facing. Our security perimeter, it isn't a physical wall anymore. It's virtual, it's always shifting, and honestly, it's pretty much dissolved. So trying to rely on just a traditional firewall now, it's like guarding the ruins of an old castle long after the treasure's been moved somewhere else entirely.
So, if the old model is totally broken, what's the fix? Well, it doesn't start with some new fancy piece of hardware. It actually starts with a completely new way of thinking, a radical new philosophy for security. This right here, this is the mantra. It's the beating heart of what's called the zero trust security model. And what it means is we stop making assumptions. We no longer assume a connection is safe just because it's coming from inside the network. Nope. Instead, we assume every single request could be a threat until it proves otherwise. We trust absolutely nothing, and we verify everything every single time.
And SDP, well, that's how we put that never trust, always verify idea into action. It's a security framework that doesn't just block bad guys. It actually makes your servers and your applications totally invisible to anyone who isn't explicitly allowed to see them. It's basically a digital invisibility cloak.
So you're probably wondering, how does this magic trick actually work? How do you make a server invisible? Well, it all comes down to two really clever technologies working together in perfect sync.
First up, you've got something called a drop-all firewall. Think of this as your digital bouncer. But this bouncer doesn't even bother saying no to people who aren't on the list. It just ignores them completely. It silently drops their connection attempts. So from the outside, it looks like there's nothing even there. Then you have the secret knock, single packet authorization, or SPA. Before any real connection happens, the authorized user sends this one tiny, super encrypted packet. Only the system knows how to recognize that secret knock, and only then will it even think about opening the door.
Now, this creates a whole new workflow that just flips traditional security on its head. See, you don't connect to the network and then log in. With SDP, you have to first prove who you are to this central controller, and it's only after both you and your device have been fully verified that the controller opens up a temporary, direct, and totally secure connection just for you and only to the one specific app you need. It's authenticate first, then connect. And that is a simple but really profound shift.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually mean in the real world? Well, the benefits are huge, and they go way beyond just being more secure.
The single biggest advantage, and I mean the biggest one, is a massive reduction in what we call the attack surface. Your attack surface is basically all the different ways a hacker could try to get in. With old school security, every server you have on the internet is a potential target. With SDP, those targets are invisible. They don't show up on a scan. It's simple, really. You can't attack what you can't even see.
And that naturally leads to a pretty common question. Wait a minute, isn't this just a fancy VPN? And that's a great question, because answering it really shows just how different and, frankly, how much more powerful SDP really is.
Think of it like this. A traditional VPN is like being dropped off inside the castle walls. It gives you really broad access to a whole section of the network. SDP, on the other hand, is like having a personal escort that takes you directly to the one specific room you're allowed to be in and absolutely nowhere else. A VPN server is a visible target sitting on the internet, while SDP resources are cloaked. But most importantly, it flips that model from connect, then prove you are, to prove who you are, then we'll connect you.
So when we zoom out and look at the big picture, what does this all mean for the future of cybersecurity? Well, it means we're right in the middle of a massive paradigm shift.
What this all boils down to is a fundamental change in how we think about security.
We're moving away from the idea of one big, static wall that protects everything inside. And instead, we're moving to a dynamic model where we provide a dedicated, intelligent, personal bodyguard for every single user and every single application, no matter where they are in the world. It's no longer about where you are, it's about who you are.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought to end on. We've just seen how this technology can make critical company data totally invisible to attackers. So it makes you wonder, as more and more of our lives go digital, what other things, our smart homes, our personal data, our online identities, what other things should have their own invisibility cloak? What else should be protected not by a wall, but by being impossible for the bad guys to find in the first place?